All right, welcome back. And this is now the fourth topic of the Small Business Destruction Guide. Choose a business you know nothing about. And again, I just want to reiterate that all these topics that I cover in the Small Business Destruction Guide are somewhat interwoven, and I actually mentioned that in this topic. So maybe you don't, something doesn't apply to you on topic number 1, number 2, number 3, maybe this one does. The important thing that I want to reiterate to you here as a possible entrepreneur, already an entrepreneur, small business owner, is the fact that a lot of these mentalities, a lot of the stuff that I cover here are principles. They are mentalities that we either learn from watching somebody else that has a bad principle, bad mentality, or we learned it somewhere that is just not very educational, or we passed down from our parents or something like that. The important thing here that I'm trying to accomplish, that I really, really want to drill into your mind to help you to really absorb, is the fact that you are an individual. You were created to do something on the face of the earth. You don't just exist. A lot of people are just existing on the face of the earth. They're not living out their purpose. They're not living the reason for why they were put here on this earth. Now, I doubt that you're this type of person because A, you wouldn't have bought this book, The Small Business Destruction Guide. B, wouldn't be eager to learn more about, starting your own business or getting into an industry or something like that. So I really doubt that you're the type of person that is just happily existing on the face of the earth and, is just going to be taken by the winds, and you clock in at a job, clock out, and you're just happy doing that for the next 30, 40, 50 years, whatever. So, I want to really help you with that. And once again, if you have a business and it's flatlined, it's in a comatose state, like I talk about in the book, this is going to help you. Maybe something will strike a chord. One of these topics will strike a chord, and like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of doing this. This is my mentality. This is how I think. I need to change that. And so that's why I want you to really absorb everything. If you're new and you're going to start a business or you're what I call an entrepreneur wannabe, a small business wannabe, then hopefully you'll take all of these seeds that I'm putting in your hand, dropping into your mind, you water it, and then they become great, huge trunks with dripping with fruit, so that you can really overflow and prosper in the lives of those around you. And that's really the reason why you're on the face of the earth, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? We were put here to really have abundance, to live an abundant life, and once you're living an abundant life, you have abundance, you pretty much overflow and you give to others. Okay? So, getting into business or into an industry that you know nothing about, it's very common, especially in times of crisis like we're going through right now. The COVID-19 has created new industries, new businesses, nothing really new, but it is giving opportunities to certain people. And maybe you're one of these people that are thinking about, I'm going to get into the hand sanitizer business and, selling hand sanitizer or masks and so on. Well, that's a fad. I think everybody understands that. I don't think we're going to be, dousing ourselves with hand sanitizer and wearing masks for the rest of our lives. Choosing an industry or getting into an industry, into a business you know nothing about, be careful with that. Sometimes, again, it relates back to topic number 1, jumping right in, is not researching, not getting advice. Again, this is all interrelated. They pretty much all the same, but in different mentalities and situations. So once you get into an industry, or you decide to get into an industry, you could do one of various ways. Either you work in that industry. So let's say you are a cook. Okay, let's get the restaurant industry. You're a cook in an industry, in the restaurant industry, and you decide to open up your own place now. Obviously, you're not jumping right in, okay, because depending on, you could have been a cook, chef for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Now you decide, hey, I'm going to get out of this thing, working for somebody else or an organization, a hotel, or whatever, type of place that you may want to be working in as a chef. And then you're going to open up your own place, okay? Very common, very standard, absolutely the right way to go, okay? research, you really don't need to do much research unless you're researching a specific area where you're going to be opening up your business, your restaurant. Is it going to do well? Is that type of cuisine acceptable? Is the neighborhood and all of that type of research, would fall into that. Advice, the same thing. Talking about advice, let me give you an example. Last night I was talking to a very good friend of mine, and he is the type of person, he buys homes, fixes them up. It doesn't really flip them because he lives in these homes. He fixes everything up by himself. He's a single guy, and so doesn't have to worry about family and sleeping on the floor if he has to, or with dust. So this particular house that he bought in Atlanta over a year ago, he's now fixing and so on. Well, he was thinking about putting in concrete countertops. And he knows that one of the industries that I have a business in is that kind of industry. It's a countertop industry. And he basically called me and got advice because he wanted to do cement countertops. Well, I told him, get advice. I'm using this as an example because when you get advice, you kind of get a door that you can go knock on. You get an opportunity to learn something that you probably didn't know. And he had no idea that he could, I guess if he'd researched or thought really carefully, he probably would have figured it out. But I was able to open up a door for him that he hadn't thought about before, which is the fact that he can call any number of real estate agents, and I'm sure that must be dozens around his area in Atlanta, to basically ask the real estate agents, hey, because obviously all the research he's been doing is online, okay, which is good. He's been doing his research. He hasn't just jumped in, he does a lot of all this work himself. So for him to do a concrete countertop was fine because concrete isn't expensive. He can do the molds and do all of that. So, his only hassle or struggle was getting the molds out of the garage into the kitchen and so on and so forth. The thing is, I told him, call the real estate agents in your area, call the realtors, the brokers, and ask them, hey, have you had experience in the past couple of years? You don't want to go more than a couple of years, where people have tried to sell their home or have had concrete countertops, and how did the buyers see or anticipate, or how did they react to somebody having concrete countertops in their kitchen? If they say that the seller lost opportunities and so on and so forth, obviously not a good idea to put concrete countertops. So he's doing that research right now. He's making those calls. In fact, he told me there's a development just down the street from him that with new homes and upscale homes, and he's going to go see what they're putting in there. I can guarantee you they're not putting in concrete countertops, but I told him, go find out the stones that they're putting in there, and at your very best, you should probably, because he's planning on finishing up this house and then selling it within the next 6 months to 12 months, and those homes are going to be likely the comps for his house, okay, because the size is compatible to his house. So obviously not a new construction, but they will most likely, because of the square footage and the land and everything, use the new homes as comps. So if that's the case, he'd better be having comparable, I always get this word wrong, comparable items in his house, because if he's got concrete, it might, and anybody that's watching this, probably that what sells a home is the kitchen, number one, and the bathrooms, number two, okay? Bedrooms and a lot of other stuff, is just amenities and things that people don't really, it doesn't drive up the price of a house. Anyway, so that's just an example of getting advice. But getting into an industry, so what are my tips? What are my pointers that I can, guide you over here? It's a simple fact that you remember the genie story, when I told you the genie? The important thing is finding out what you're passionate about. We've covered that in a previous video. If you're not watching these videos in sequence, go back to, I think I spoke about the genie in, video 2 or 3 or topic 2 or 3. But go back and find out about the genie and ask those questions to yourself. What 3 things would you like a genie to give you if money was not a factor? Okay, you didn't need money. You didn't, what are the 3 things? Chances are you're going to find out deep in your heart what you're passionate about. Now, that's the first thing. So once you find out what you're passionate about, there's probably an industry that you are likely to fall under with that passion of yours, okay? So again, I use the restaurant industry. You're passionate about cooking. If you've worked, and let me go back to that, using that example and the different variations. So you're passionate about cooking, you're working somewhere, obviously you're going to basically take that and you're not getting into an industry that you're not familiar with, okay? But you've never worked as a cook, you've never worked in a restaurant, you have no idea, other than going out and having dinner or lunch or breakfast at a restaurant, you have no idea what that industry, how it runs, what is required, what is necessary, and you get into that industry only to find out that it's, in my opinion, I've been in that industry, it's like a slave industry, okay? Until you get to the point that you can have a good manager, a good general manager, and the place can somewhat run on its own, you know, it's just, I so much value and appreciate restaurant owners and their lives, because it's a sacrificial business. It's a type of business that it's open and I'll give you the example. When I was just the general manager of Quiznos, you know, the mall, I used to work in a big mall here close to my home, and, you know, the mall did not shut down. Of the 364 days in a year, only shut down 3 days. Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and Easter Day. That's it. Every other day, it's open. Sunday, Monday, every day. No other holidays. 4th of July, I believe the mall would close down at 6 or 7 o'clock instead of 10 p.m. All right, that's so people could go out and, you know, see the fireworks and stuff like that, but it was still open. I was, you know, I didn't work the night shift. I had a supervisor that worked at the night that closed for me, but you know, I had to still be there during the whole day. So I couldn't go to the beach, I couldn't have a barbecue because I was working, okay? So very important for you to understand the industry you get into, and then you realize, oh my God, you know, this industry is like that. I hate it. Now you've invested all this time, all this money, just because somebody told you that you can make a lot of money in that industry, and you can. You know, I mean, look around you. There are restaurant owners that have become multi-millionaires, have multiple locations, and but it's not for everybody. So it's important that you understand the industry you're getting into. Kind of like the friends that I talk about in the book, okay? I really, really hate using him as a moronic example, because I really, really love this person. He's a very close friend of mine, and you know, he's, you know, after he got his stroke, he never quite recovered 100%. So again, but he got into this industry just because he thought he could make money, and he spent a lot of money. You know, I don't know his financial situation, but I know that he lost a lot of money in that deal, okay? So don't do that. Don't get into an industry just because you think you can make money, because everybody else is making money. Not every industry is for everybody, and you have to understand that, okay? So I have the genie, talked about the passion. I've got notes for this video now because I don't want to lose any of the information that I really want to pass on to you. And I want to give you advice that I've given my daughters and just about everybody that I talk with, you know, teenagers and kids that I talk with. It's very, very 100% anti everything you've probably heard growing up. I don't know how old you are, the person that's watching this video. I don't know if you're older than me, younger than me, if you're a teenager. I know that I do have some young people that follow me. But the thing that what I'm going to tell you right now is an advice that I've given all three of my kids, okay, all three of my daughters, and anybody else, especially teenagers that are in school, high school. They don't know what they're going to do with their lives. They don't know what they're passionate about. They don't know what industry they're going to study. They don't know what to go to university. I've always had a rule, and it's a rule that I apply to my daughters, okay? I do not pay for university, period. I do not pay for university. It freaks out and shocks a lot of people when I say that, but I do not pay for university. Now, in saying that, okay, I've paid for two of my daughters' schooling, all right? And one is an accountant, and the other one has 2 licenses that are in the health and beauty industry. So I've paid for all of those. Why? The reason I tell teenagers and parents of teenagers don't pay for university is because it's important that you find out first what you want to do, okay? So the fact that I'm telling people don't pay for university or don't go to university, okay, is because it is an overrated mentality. It's an old school mentality that you finish high school, you automatically have to go into university. Don't do that. Unless, of course, you know what you're passionate about. If you're telling your parents, if you're the type of person that from the age of 6 years old and you've never changed your mind, you know, because I mean, I'll tell you what I wanted to do when I was 6 years old. I wanted to be an actor, a fireman, a policeman, you know. What do guys want to do when they're that age? You know, and then it changed over the years, you know. The actor actually came more, you know, when I started watching Hollywood movies and stuff like that, I wanted to become an actor. So it's important because as things shift and change, that's not what you're passionate about, okay? So, but if you're the type of person, we're a kid and, you know, I want to be a doctor. I want to be, you know, whatever, pilot. I want to be, you know, I have a friend right now whose daughter, she is now, I think we were talking about this the other day, she's either 10 or 11, whatever. She already has her own business. She is passionate about cooking, baking specifically, it's the pastry and the sweets and cakes and stuff like that. She watches the cake whatever on TV and watches all these cake shows and desserts and everything. She just started her business. You know, she's putting out macaroons. She a couple of months ago, a month ago, she put out this beautiful and very delicious macaroons on her Facebook and everything. So she's already a business owner, technically. Does she have to go to college? Chances are not. I don't know if this girl is going to learn anything in college. She's already baking, cooking, and she's been baking cakes for parties and stuff like that, all right, for people. She's 11 years old. 11, I don't think she's even 12 yet, okay? So that's the thing. She's passionate about that. Nobody's going to take her off that course unless she decides herself. She's tired of that, and, you know, she finishes high school, and if she hasn't become a millionaire yet, you know, she probably, well, you know, I'm tired of this, I'm going to do, you know, become a nurse or whatever, I don't know. But here's the thing. Unless you're somebody like that, then I always tell, you know, teenagers and parents, don't pay for your kids' school. Don't force them to go to school, because what's going to happen is the simple fact that they are not going to do what they're passionate about. And I mentioned that actually the conversation in the video that I recorded before about the conversation I had with this friend of mine who's studying law, okay? It's all, again, all the stuff is interwoven and it has all to do with each other. It's just separate types of mentalities. So getting into an industry you know nothing about is very important. And in this case, so going back to the school idea, figure out what you want to do before, you know, if you're a teenager, if you're about to finish high school and you don't know what you do and you want to go to college or you don't want to go to college, you don't know what to do when you go to college, your parents when you go, just tell them, you know, give me a break. Take a year, take 2 years, take 3 years. And this is what I told all my kids, all right? If you're living at home, you're paying nothing on bills, you're paying nothing on rent, you don't have to pay electricity, you know. My kids, I started teaching them about finances from the time that, you know, they were able to get their own cell phones. They pay their own cell phone bills. We paid a couple of them a couple of years, a year or two, and then once they started working, boom, you know, you get your own cell phone, you get your own cell phone bill. Okay, to date, they pay their own cell phone bills. But, you know, one of them is married and the other one is you know, they're all well off in life. But anyway, the thing is that if you're at home, okay, teenagers, high school students, okay, whether you're graduating or graduating soon, whatever the case is, if you don't have any bills to pay, go and offer your services where you think you want to go and work. In other words, you want to be a doctor, go to a hospital, go to an urgent care facility, go to a private doctor's office, and just say, hey, can I make coffee? Can I sweep the floors? Can I file your paperwork? Do whatever you can offer for free. and be passionate, be interested, give value wherever you are. Chances are you're probably not going to work for free, because if you really give and you serve, unless the guy is, just a real schmuck, I'm sorry to use the word schmuck, okay, the schmuck doctor doesn't see the value and doesn't see you passionate about something, he's probably going to throw you a bone at the end of the month, at the end of the week, $100 because you see. But the more interest you show, the more the person, the doctor in this case, will be willing to show you the ins and outs, and you ask questions. Ask a lot of questions, okay? You've got to learn to ask questions in life. You ask questions, what's this? How's this? How does this work? When you're in a surgery, what does that? Can I assist you? Can I watch you in a surgery? Can I follow you? Whatever you can do to get into what that industry is, what that job, that business, whatever it is, try and do it while you can afford to even do it for free, okay? Either for nothing, as a volunteer, as an intern, whatever you want to call it, or to earn minimum wage, whatever it is. Again, if you're passionate about making money, you will never have money enough. It's a proverb in the Bible. And I don't know if you're a Christian or not, doesn't matter. It's a proverb. It's a principle that life is lived by. The more you chase after money, the more you'll never have, because if you love money and you're chasing money, you get $1 million, it's not enough, because it's never enough, and you become a slave to money. When you do something that you're passionate about, what happens is you basically are fulfilled even without money. And prosperity, like I mentioned in a previous video, is not about money. Prosperity is about many things in life. It's about health. It's about family. It's about your relationship with your wife or your husband, your spouse. It's about your relationship with your children. It's about your relationship with other people. That is prosperity, okay? So it's not just money. Money is a part of prosperity, and I believe that every single person on the face of the earth needs to have an abundance of it, but not everybody wants to work or put in the necessary struggle to get to that point of really having an abundance in finances. Okay, so just do that. Again, I'm talking specifically to the teenagers right now that don't know what to do, or if you're in your 20s and you still don't know what to do, but you want to go to college. Before you go, try to work in that industry for a certain amount of time. Give yourself a time of 1 year. I'm going to stick to this for a year, and 12 months I'm going to work, and in a year, you'll find out. You'll probably 6 months you'll be able to find out if this is something that you want to do for the rest of your life or not. Okay, definitely 1 year. You work in whatever industry, you will realize that this is something that you want to do or not. Okay. And so that's if, I'm talking now in a college situation, and it applies to the same thing if you want to open up a business. For example, let's use the restaurant example again, okay? You want to become a restaurateur. Okay, you don't have to go and take lessons in cooking. You don't have to go and take lessons in everything. It would be wise and viable to learn something about, if you want to have, for example, Italian cuisine, to go and do some research. Again, go back to Google and do some research on Google about cooking Italian food and learn some recipes and stuff like that. But you don't need that to open a restaurant. What you do need to know is the ins and outs, the type of lifestyle, the type of everything, and you could just get a job working at a restaurant as a waiter, waitress, as a busboy, as a cook, as whatever. Just get a job in there and see. Tell the owner, listen, I want you to teach me everything about that. And if he's willing, if he's a good guy and he understands abundance, there's enough for everybody to go around, all right, he'll teach you. But you can also learn that on your own. You work and you learn. Again, today in Google, you'll find enough information that you will be needing and looking for. All right. So let's say that you go and you get a job, okay, in that industry, and you work a year. That year, okay, could either be a failure, which will be a success, a failure in the sense that you realize that this isn't for me. So you lose a year of your life doing something that you don't really like, but you don't spend thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, layer yourself on debt with debt, okay? That'll take you 10, 20 years to recover, and then, you have to go get a job somewhere else, and you won't even be able to be an entrepreneur again, or you have to go borrow money somewhere else and then, get deeper in. So if you know the principle for one thing, so let's say you don't like the industry, what do? Well, you sit down again, okay, which you probably will do within this 12-month period. It's not like you get to, the 365th day and like, oh my God, I only realize now that I don't like this industry. No, you'll know by month 1, month 2, month 3, and maybe even by that time you just quit and go figure it out somewhere else. But if you give yourself a year, okay, you'll be able to get enough ins and outs about that industry so you can get into it, okay? And this can work for absolutely any industry, okay? Online industries work the same way. Physical industries work that way, any industry, okay? So the other thing I wanted to teach you, and this is now something that I'm very likely going to be using this because I used it. I discovered these 4 things, 4 A's, okay, that I'm going to show you here for one of my businesses. And I thought that I created it exclusively for that business. But one day there's 5 A's for that particular business, but it won't apply to every business. So that one of the A's doesn't apply to every business. But definitely 4 A's will to any business, any industry, and your life in general, okay? So I'm going to teach you this, and try to remember this. It's so easy, every time I start a meeting with my employees in that business, I always start off, okay, what are the 4 A's? And I go one by one, or I get a chart, I have them write it down, because I want them to understand that is the process, that is the procedure, that is what I created as the process for this and a system for the business to go by, okay? And it's very simple. And the first A, all right, so there's 4 A's. All right, the first A is ask. All right, and I've taught you this before. Ask questions about everything. There's no mistake, there's no problem. And you may have heard this before. The only bad question is the question you don't ask. Okay, the only wrong question is the question you don't ask. That's the wrong question, the one that you don't ask. Okay, so ask. Ask what? Ask the questions that have to do with the industry you want to get into. Okay, just ask. Ask as many questions as you can, and get the answers and document those answers so that you understand more about that particular industry. And I want to talk about specifically industry right now because that's the topic on the book right now. Okay, ask. The next one is analyze. In America, we use a Z. Overseas, we use an S. So ask, analyze. What do you analyze? Well, you analyze the answers to the questions. All right? You analyze the answers to the questions you ask up here. So, whatever it is, ask the question, what does, the restaurant industry, let's stick with the restaurant industry. What does the restaurant industry do? Well, if you're analytically, it feeds people. How does it feed people? Well, it feeds people by giving food. What type of food? Healthy food, fatty food, fast food. You've got all the different types of foods that you can serve in that industry. Okay? So ask, then you analyze. Analyze that to see if it matches what you're passionate about, okay? And then in doing all of this, you probably discover what you're passionate about as well, okay? Then, ask, analyze, advice, which we've had in a different topic, okay? In this particular business that I created this for, it's actually advice, all right? It's where my employees will advise the clients, okay? For you, you want to get advice, okay? Which goes back to a previous topic, all right? So ask, analyze, advise. After getting advice, you're going to do an adjust. Okay? What are you adjusting? Well, for my employees, again, once they ask, analyze, advice, give advice to the client, okay? And then they adjust the services that the clients get. For you, okay, is adjusting the, the type of industry you want to get into. Okay, so you may have to adjust in the sense that, I dreamt of having a very, very big restaurant with, 200 seats. All right, well, you may just want to adjust to, 10, tables to start off with. So adjusting is just really adjusting that mentality that you have about the particular industry, and then living and then kind of going through that. Because sometimes what happens is you get fixed and focused on a certain path, and unless you adjust that, what happens is you can just go on a path that is not, you have to be flexible. Okay, adjusting really means being flexible as well. All right, so those are the 4 A's that you can apply to everything and anything in life. No matter what you're doing, no matter if it's business, in life in general, ask, analyze, advise or get advice, and then adjust. Okay, always be flexible to move things if necessary. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is basically I've got a motorcycle license, and before I got my motorcycle license in 2005, I took here in Massachusetts we have safe riding classes for motorcycles. I don't know if it's the same in every state, but I had ridden bikes in the past. California, when I lived in California, I had a couple of bikes, small bikes, but. So I wanted to, get back into riding, and I took the safe riding class. Now, why am I mentioning this? It's because it's not mandatory. You don't have to. But the benefit of getting a training like that is the simple fact that things are going to be implanted in your mind, or implanted in my mind, that help me avoid 2 accidents probably within the first 6 months of me starting, getting my new motorcycle in 2005. I avoided 2 accidents that summer just because of the motorcycle class. So why am I telling you about this? Because the training that I'm giving you here is that, and if you've read this topic in this chapter, this is chapter 1 and topic number 4. If you've read it, it talks about, stepping on a landmine. Okay, I specifically wanted that graphic visualization of you stepping on a landmine, because when we screw up, when we really screw up in our business, it's like stepping on a landmine. We do stuff that really we shouldn't have. But once your foot is on there, you really can't lift it out until an expert comes and helps you out. I've been that expert to a lot of businesses. There are a lot of consultants and people that help out businesses. Sometimes it's delicate because you just dig around. You have to kind of have that care of taking that landmine, the pressure that is on that landmine, and kind of saving that person's foot, that person's life, okay, by being very, very careful once they step on the landmine. And so doing training like this, like I'm doing now, is very important that you, as you go on with your business career, your entrepreneurial career, I want you to have the visualization of certain things that I wrote in the book and that I'm talking about here, so that you don't step on more landmines, so that you don't get hurt, don't hurt yourself, your family, failing at a business. Although sometimes it's necessary, sometimes you just have to fail. I've learned that, you've got to fail quickly, fail often, but never fail at the same things, okay? And the quicker you fail at something inexpensively, it'll avoid you failing. You know, I've failed at businesses where I only put in, a few $1,000s. Well, it's better than failing at a business that I put millions of dollars into. All right, so that's also something that I've learned and that I apply to my life right now. But be wise in the things that you're learning here, so that and if all of us will step onto a landmine sooner or later. As long as you learn these principles and don't make the same mistakes more than once, you'll be fine, and learn from every time you make a mistake. Okay? Because if you learn, then you don't repeat it. All right, so basically that is it on this video. I think it's been the longest video, but it's like I said, I want to go deeper. I want to teach a little bit more. I want to give more examples, because the more examples I can give you of real life situations, the more that I believe you'll absorb and learn and remember as you go down the road. Because if I just give you theory, even this could be something theoretical without giving you stories behind it, then you probably forget it by tomorrow, and then you won't remember. But if I tell you the stories of the situations I've been in, and also the clients I've had to deal with, then hopefully those will stick in your mind, and you won't make those mistakes. All right, thank you so much. I will see you on the next video, and please don't forget, we were put on the face of the earth to dominate, and not dominate over other people, but dominate over the earth. And all you have to do is go. It's yours for the taking. If you don't, somebody else will. I'll see you in the next video.